Hello and welcome to Ashes of the Imperium. My name is Dan, and today I'm joined by the lovely Gary from the Realm Rift podcast. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for having me on.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. Thank you for joining me.
Did that sound genuine? Yeah.
That's it. You've been practicing in front of a mirror, haven't you?
Thank you. Yeah,
I can hear the lie through your teeth.
It says there's a crisis going on, Dan. I can't afford a mirror, I'm afraid. I've just got a sheet of tinfoil up against the wall. That'll do me. Thank you. I'm not in the crown. I can't afford that, I'm afraid.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Today we are talking all about Gary's recent event. God, what was it called? Death of Morok? Battle of Morok?
Morok in Flames.
Morok in Flames. There we go. Yeah. So we're talking about Gary's recent Kill Team one-day event, Morok in Flames, which I attended, which I thought was, spoilers, was fantastic. But we'll see how Gary felt it went. And this event for me was particularly significant because it's the first time I had attended a wargaming event since COVID, which seems like a long time ago. And actually, Gary and I were talking about how amazing it was just to kind of get everyone together, and throw some dice. But yeah, it was very special for me, and so I thought I would invite Gary on to talk about the event because Kill Team is brilliant. And also, there's probably people out there, perhaps, who either haven't ever gone to a gaming event before, whether that's a tournament or a more narrative event, or perhaps people out there that used to go to loads of events and because of everything that's been happening in the world, haven't found the time to get out there. So we thought we'd share a bit of love and talk about our experiences. So
yeah, definitely.
Gary, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself before we jump straight in?
Well, I am one of the content creators for Realm Rift, basically just focusing on Kill Team right now because it's kind of like become the perfect game for me. So it's kind of where I want to aim all of my hobby focus. So that's, I was one of the creators of Age of Sigmar a long time ago. And then was on Le Triumvirate, then Realm Rift, and now I've sunk low enough to be on Ashes. So that's it. Sorry, I couldn't resist, Dan. Sorry,
picking up the scraps.
It is a joke. Obviously, it's fantastic, and I do appreciate being able to come on and absolutely talk your ear off about how Kill Team is the game that everyone listening should be playing.
Oh, controversial, bold claim. That is a great little segue onto Kill Team as a game itself. So, what is it? Going slightly off script to the questions about the event. What is it about Kill Team that appeals to you so much?
Well, first round. This might be like the first hour. So here we go. So basically, there's been 2 editions of Kill Team. So we had the original edition, the first edition, that was, for me, I absolutely loved the initial release of it. I thought it was fantastic. It was basically like mini 40k. I really enjoyed it, and then quite quickly they started to add expansions that I just wasn't really a fan of. Because you had stuff like commanders straight away, and it was a really odd, for me, it was a really odd thing to get my head round because it was, you instantly had like Space Marine captains in this, like, I really like the idea of the small skirmish kill teams, like actually, they're doing a really important thing, but they're not in this huge battle over a planet. They're off to one side trying to take out this, fuel reserve for the enemy that would affect the big battle and stuff like that. I really, almost a lot of the Gaunt's Ghosts stories.
Yes, and in fact, if people haven't read Gaunt's Ghosts, but they have seen Rogue One, the Star Wars film, I think
I've got a Rogue One reference later as well. Which is fun.
Sorry, mate, I'm stealing your sandwiches there.
It just cements that idea, which is great.
But in that film, so sorry, spoilers if people haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen it, then just pause the podcast now and watch it because it's brilliant. Obviously, when they're on the planet, they send in the first team to kind of switch off the shield system, and they kind of sneak them in. And there's like 7 of them or 8 of them or something like that, right? And for me, that's the Kill Team. And then they switch off the shield generator, and then like the fighters go in, the fleet goes in, and then and that's when the 40k starts. That like that whole trope of like an elite band of, and it's that kind of like, is it Rambo 3 with like, Rambo, come out for one last mission, we're getting an elite bunch of guys together, or the Expendables. It's just there's this really like cinematic cool vibe about getting a little ragtag bunch of people together. And going often, and obviously in Kill Team it's more balanced, but often in these kind of narrative stories you see these small little bands going kind of against the odds as like the underdog, and that itself creates some cool little narrative moments.
Yeah, totally. But so we had the first edition, which was I still enjoyed, but kind of fell to the wayside for me because they started adding things that I just personally didn't enjoy playing in the games.
Yeah, we had commanders, and again, as you say, like you had like captains on the fields, elites, and then suddenly you've got like Terminators, and then like for me, Kill Team expansion Titans was the sort of the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Yeah, Kill Team 40k,
Kill Team expansion Warlord Titan.
But so the second edition was released last year. Yes, maybe no.
Yeah, last year,
I think. Yeah,
the time has all blurred into one because
there's just no time anymore. Like,
and you've just had a kid as well, so
pandemics and children just means as soon as you get a child, that's it. All time is very relative. So yeah, I've just absolutely been beaming over the new edition because it is exactly what I wanted Kill Team to be. And it's just all these like basically troop choice based kill teams. And also now you start to see these real like unique kill teams that like wouldn't just be a unit in 40k. It's actually like they've released it for kill teams specifically. And I think that was I've just really enjoyed that, where before it was 40k models in Kill Team. Now you're getting Kill Team models in 40k, which has just been great. And it means I can get those little. I can't focus or even currently buy a full big game army. It's just too much of a time investment for me, particularly as someone who does not at all enjoy the building stage of the hobby. That's just not for me. And this gives me that little like dopamine hit of getting an army done, but on a much smaller scale. So I've got just as much happiness and pride over finishing a kill team as I have finishing one of my AOS armies in the past. And space-wise, it's only one of the little GW boards. I can't remember the exact size. And also, the other thing I absolutely love doing is building a battlefield.
Oh,
and
terrain is awesome.
Exactly. And now you can do that. As Dan has witnessed himself, I've done that like 10 times over with completely different styles. And that is just as much fun now as it is doing the creating and painting the kill teams.
And for me, you talk about like the kind of scale of it. For me particularly, I have all these crazy ideas and I have all this kind of like hobby butterfly, like, oh, I could do this or I could do that. I could do like a whole Blood Axe Commando force. It's like, no, you just all you want to do, Dan, is take a couple of Imperial Guard vehicles and put orcs crewing them with heavy stubbers and heavy bolters.
You don't actually want a full army of it, do you? It's like, you want that one. You want that one. You almost, what you want to do is make a diorama.
That's exactly it. Absolutely.
And in Kill Team, you can very much do that. As we'll get onto, people did display boards that look like little mini dioramas, and you can do all of that super sweet stuff in this game.
I love it. I'm a huge fan. I'm a convert. So let's talk about the event itself. What was your intent behind creating the event, kind of to start with?
Well, I kind of want, whenever I do an event, it tends to be, I want to build an event for people who are new to a system to be able to come and play and just like meet new players themselves and most importantly, make new friends by the end of it. is always a big aim for me. And I think if you come into an event and everyone there are veteran players are know 100% what they're doing, and it's very match play orientated, it's probably not something you're going to feel super keen on doing. Where if you know the event itself is very, because I was very clear in the packs that this is everyone's getting extra time because lots of people are going to be new, and although we want you to have a decent understanding of the rules when you come in, it's very much about asking questions and just having fun and rolling some dice with friends. That's kind of all I wanted to do.
And so this wasn't clearly your first event. Is there anything in particular that you've learned in your experience before as a TO that was useful for this event?
Yeah, I mean, there's the more events you do, the more you're, as with anything, the more you're prepared for the next thing. And it's a long time ago, me and a friend Andy ran Partners in Chaos, which was a double event for AOS, and this was like first edition AOS, so there weren't loads of events, but let alone like a doubles event. And that was amazing. We got a real kick out of just people being so happy at being at an event you run. Like, it's if you've not done it before, it's a real fun experience. And I've run a few what was they became titled Funvitationals, which were basically 40k events for friends who played AOS and just wanted like a casual day with mates, like making it. I never really like to use the term tournament at my things because that makes it sound like it's something it's not. It is just literally a day of playing games with your mates that happens to be ranked at the end.
I think there's great value in that because there are a lot of actual legit, match play tournaments as they are branded and sold to people, and there is space for that. There's clearly demand for that, but there's also demand and space for lots of other type of events, and I think that's something that if you're on like wargaming social media, then you can sometimes lose sight of that, especially for I guess players like yourself and me and Steve. Like we definitely approach the hobby from a slightly more kind of narrative perspective. And it can get a bit, I don't know, intimidating is the wrong word, but you kind of see all these people be like, oh, what's the best list? What's the best unit? Oh, don't take that. It's not good. And actually, like, oh, I just want to take like cool stuff. And
yeah, I think that's and like you covered. The last thing I want to do is think that like to downplay how fun match play can be. It is, it's a great experience, but if you've not been to an event before, it can be quite an overwhelming experience. So it's that's the thing. Like, I think there are room for events like this because it's just a bit more of a relaxed vibe, and at the same time, I could understand players not being into that. Like, totally get it. Like, it's not one thing's better than the other. It's just the luxury of having lots of events on offer means you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do.
So talking of one thing being better than the other, what one thing for you was the most important thing to get right at this event?
I think I've kind of been thinking about that as like a bit like the Swan effect, where I think as a TO, it's really good to just look calm and make people feel calm as you do stuff, because you don't want someone, huffing about and being like looking like they're being completely overwhelmed, even though like, the event you came to, my mind was racing the whole time, making sure like people were getting through their games, making sure everyone was happy with what's going on, making people feel calmed, welcomed, safe. It is that, as we discussed before. I think coming out of lockdowns, I myself included still feel a lot of anxiety around like these sorts of get-togethers and experiences. So I wanted to make that environment to be as calm and relaxed as possible. So for me, that is kind of the most important thing at the moment.
And so before the event started, were there any like specific concerns you had, or what were you most worried about?
Oh yeah, yeah. it's a toughie. Kind of just making sure that I just remember everything. My mind's an absolute sieve at the moment. So just making sure there wasn't things like I mean, literally 6 a.m. in the morning, I was printing out score sheets because I ticked everything else off and hadn't put that on my checklist. It was like, it's just, yeah, just be as organized as you can be was really one of the most important things for me.
And I think even your laminator broke, didn't it?
Oh, don't. Why did you bring it up? Dad, why did you bring it up? Oh, I've just gotten over that. We've had the burial and everything. Oh, dude, give me time to grieve. Yeah, if you know me well, then you know how much I absolutely love laminating stuff. And when she gave up the ghost the night before, I just, it genuinely hit me hard that it failed halfway through laminating something. It's like she just couldn't get past that last hurdle. But
poor little beast.
Exactly. It done well. Did really well. I just wish it could have gone a more dignified way.
So you mentioned about making like lots of different kill zones and things like that, but playing within those kill zones, was there an approach that you had to deciding sort of specific missions? And did you have like a kill zone in mind? You thought, oh, this kind of mission will be great to play in that kill zone, or that kind of thing. How did you approach that?
I'll let you into my extremely, listeners, you might have to write this down because it's an extremely complicated system I use to decide on the missions. So the first event, all the missions in the Kill Team book are labeled like 1, 2, 3 point something. So the first event I ran 1.1, 2.1 and 3.1, and then this event I ran 1.2, 2.2 and 3.2. So the next event, I'm still thinking about which ones I need to run. But yeah, it'll be a real mystery for people to turn up to see what missions I run next time. It's one of those things. I think if you really wanted to bury down into like the fine details, yeah, you could definitely try and do different missions for core missions for every table without a doubt. But I think knowing that I was going to be the most experienced Kill Team player there to answer questions about basically everything, I needed to know that everyone was kind of on the same wavelength when it came to missions every time. So I'm not basically trying to answer wrong questions for missions. I made sure I triple read all of these so I could give the right answers.
Yeah, you don't want to be worried about, which table are you on? Oh, therefore, which mission you on, and having to worry about that. But you did
which is why I decided to add the narrative stuff to make stuff even more complicated.
That's what I was going to get to. So you did add your own little, I suppose, Gary sprinkles on top, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, that is not a product I'm making. Just so the listeners know, that sounds.
Subscribe to your OnlyFans for
awful. Yeah. So yeah, basically, I wanted to have a little extra theme a little extra themed mission to go along with each kill zone. So it was based around the kill zone. And in my head, it was kind of just like, what if an action movie was going on this kill zone, what would be the scene that's going on? And it tends to be a simple little extra thing you could do. But the way we scored the event was there was a prize that you could go for that completely ignored those. If you wanted to make the experience as simple as you wanted, you did not have to participate in the narrative sections whatsoever. That was totally up to you. And I think that is something I will probably continue doing going forward because it just works.
Did you find there was much of a take up on the narrative things?
Oh, yeah. I think the only time people didn't is when they genuinely just forgot there was one for the table.
Yeah.
So no, there was, and we also have a growing amount of players that kind of forfeit the actual mission just to complete the core mission, just to complete the narrative mission, which was is really fun to see. Particularly, there was a last tape. We've got I painted up the cargo hauler, and one of the missions was basically either you could get the cargo hauler off the table, or you could blow up like the payload that's on it. And I made it completely open for people to decide on, how they wanted to do that. I gave it like a defense and a save, etc., etc. But at the end, one of the tables, one of the players, even though it didn't say only one person can drive it, player can drive it, and the other person has to try and blow it up, they themselves decided it just makes sense if I try and drive it off and you're trying to blow it up. And it was just like, that was just really cool. That made stuff like that really like filled me with joy, because it's like, you guys didn't have to add that stipulation yourself, but it makes sense, and it just shows that you're really loving the mission. So that was really fun.
That sounds really cool. It sounds like it's really rewarding as a TO when
Definitely,
something that you've like a framework that you've created, players are really leaning into and kind of making their own.
Yeah, because it is basically what I'm basically doing is like, I'm a GM. I love running roleplay games, and it's kind of adding that sandbox element to it, where players could potentially take advantage of it if they wanted to. But I don't think any players that have joined the event have had even a sprinkling of that mindset. So no, that was really fun.
And you said there was a prize for the person who kind of engaged with the narrative missions the most and got the most points. But what other prizes were there?
So we basically had People's Champion, which is pretty much always one of my favourite ones, which is best sports. So that's all that contributes to that. Is the player
best prize at any event.
Exactly. It's the player that all the other players enjoyed playing against the most. So that's and that's also kind of a wild card as well, because it could literally be anyone. That's the great thing about that. We had an award which basically added every single possible scoring element into it, which was like painting and gaming, sports votes, then narrative mission points and actual core mission points. So that was everything. And then there was one that was just basically the core, your more match play award. So it was just what you would expect to score in a match play event. And we had super, super lovely awards made by Pro Painted Studios, which was amazing to be able to have them for people to pick up, because they were these really nice glass trophies that were just, as soon as I saw them, I was like, these are gorgeous. And it's just
Matt does some great work there, doesn't he?
It does, yeah, and it was just lovely to be able to be jealous of people during your own event. It was like, oh man, I'd really want to win one of these. Next time, I might just get them to just make best TO.
The best TO, yeah. It'd be embarrassing if you didn't get it though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it's understandable. I'm a tyrant. I'm a tyrant when it comes to the actual day.
We'll stick a link to Pro Painted Studios in the podcast description, just so you can check it out. Matt does a whole bunch of MDF laser cut stuff, acrylic tokens.
Basically, with like, even though he is a friend, it's even if that wasn't the case, it's just that they just make the best like gaming accessory stuff in my mind.
Absolutely.
So few people do you see now at like an AOS event that haven't got tokens made by Pro Painted Studios, and there is a reason for that.
What I really liked about Matt, and I hope he doesn't mind me kind of repeating this on the episode. I think someone sent him a message on his eBay store and sent him a link to someone else's product and said, "Oh, can you make these for me? Because your product A is cheaper than this person's product A. So here's product B that this person's made. Can you laser cut a similar version?" I think Matt was just like, "Why don't you just buy it off that person?" Like, I'm not stealing someone else's design.
Yeah, it's like support. And now more than ever, it's important that small businesses are supported. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It's a really nice.
I really like that kind of like, because you see a lot of things nice these days, especially on like a really good ethos and like a strong kind of ethical code, like not just kind of like out to get the quickest buck. So shout out to Matt, good lad. So prizes tick. You mentioned painting. How was the level of painting? At the event?
I hope you agree. It was absolutely phenomenal. Like, genuinely blew me away. What the effort, and again, another spark of joy is that from being a TO, knowing that was done for your event, it's just it was. I mean, there was a high level of hobbyists there anyway. So I was expecting like 2 or 3 really exceptional kill teams and a load of just lovely kill teams. But I just love them all for their own reasons. There were so many great kill teams there that it was so hard for me and Andy to go, because a part of it is me and Andy go as well as players voting for their favourite kill teams. Me and Andy went round and just chose which ones we like the most as well. So it were, and you do have people, playing the system against my love of armies, because we had Matt's beautiful Gene Stealer cult with their with the amazing display board,
like little LED lit up display board,
exceptional work. And then you had Chris Tomlin's Imperial Fists. I mean, it's really hard for me not to ever not vote for an Imperial Fist, because it's they're the best. So it's that simple. And then we also had Matt Elliott's Commandos. He put so much effort into them.
They looked great.
From the first event, it was another like TO Spark of Joy moment. As he basically afterwards sent me a message saying how much he loved the event, and he was like, right, next one, I'm really gunning for that this time, because I really I enjoyed winning a prize then. I just really want to put my best effort into it to do it again. And it's like, that's awesome, that's great. But you also had, you had beautiful Krieg kill team done by Ben Smith, and you had Carl Smith's absolutely eye-blasting Gelapox crew. And it was it was like I could literally go through them all, because all of them were great. There was like a two-tone Alpha Legion force there, but that was all. It's almost like the painter decided on a different scheme halfway through.
You're such a I was like, he hasn't mentioned the Alpha Legion. I bet he's going to get a comment in there. He's such an absolute rascal.
But honestly, jokes aside, though, Dan, that was Dan's kill team, by the way, listeners. It had some unfortunate moments leading up to the event, but you would not have expected it from the kill team Dan brought, because it was an excellent idea, and you'd really succeeded in producing what you wanted to produce. It was a lovely kill team.
That's very kind of you to say so. Thank you.
Sorry.
The embarrassing moment for the context for the listeners. I think about a year ago, because I was scrolling through my pictures trying to find the actual colours. About a year ago, I painted some Primaris Alpha Legion. So standard Primaris models with Forge World Alpha Legion heads and shoulder pads, and I think one of them had one of the close combat guys had a Chaos Space Marine chainsword. That kind of, it was very minimal conversions, but all painted up in a kind of metallic blue color. And the way I did that was a kind of lead belcher-esque base coat with a bit of a top zenithal bright silver highlight, and then layering on a contrast color over the top. So anyway, I get my old Alpha Legion and I look at them and I think, oh, they're blue. What? They're kind of a bluey turquoise. So I reach for Pterodon turquoise, and it's quite late at night. So I get a bit of kitchen roll out and dab a bit of turquoise on there, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that looks about all right. Yeah. But when you dab paint straight out of the pot, sometimes it's a little bit darker or a little bit lighter depending on how much you got. I remember the color looked ever so slightly different, and I was like, well, I have just put it on textured kitchen towel and not a flat model, and also I have dabbed it straight from a brush and not through an airbrush, so it looks about right, but it does look a little bit different, but never mind. And it was, as I say, it was quite late at night. So anyway, so I went to bed on the Saturday night, and on the Sunday morning I woke up and went, right, time to start airbrushing. So I airbrushed one and I was like, that doesn't look spot on, that doesn't look exactly right, but obviously I'd moved my painted models out of the way, so they weren't next to each, because obviously I don't want to get overspray, so I kind of moved them out of the way. And then I started painting the other one, spraying the second one, and I was like, that hasn't dried any differently. Because often, especially contrast or airbrushing stuff, when you put on fills and layers, it dries and it looks slightly different to how it goes on. And I was looking at it, I was like, that just doesn't look right. So I pick up one of them and I pick up another, and they are literally two different colors.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Pterodon turquoise that I'd used. It was Achillean green. And the most frustrating thing is the one that was painted correctly was blue, and the color was called Achillean green.
I've
and the
made
one
that
was
mistake a few
painted
times as well.
incorrectly was turquoise and wasn't. I was just like,
why it's Achillean green, I do not know. It just seems to be setting people up for failure there. But listeners, this is an important and public service that Dan's doing. Write down your paint recipes.
Write down your paint recipes. Write down your... Do you know what? That wasn't the thing that properly made me kind of like have a bit of nerd rage was I was really fuming because of all this. I was like, oh, for Pete's sake. And obviously it's just an airbrush layer. You can kind of correct it quite easily. But then I put in a bunch of silver through the airbrush and rebase coated these guys. And then I filled it up with Achillean green, my little hopper of my kind of little tub on top of the airbrush, whatever it's called. And I moved my airbrush from left to right quite rapidly to do a kind of motion. And I just flicked contrast all over my hands, all over my airbrush, all over my paint station. And at that point, I was just like, right, that's it. I'm not coming to this stupid event. I hate Warhammer. I'm never painting a Space Marine ever again. What's the point? And I just had like a proper little meltdown.
We all have them. It's an important element for people to know. Like,
Absolutely.
We all have these moments.
So I harnessed my emotions for it. I let the hate flow through me. And then I got back into it and I painted them. And you know what? Thank you for saying that earlier. Like I was really happy with them. And I think what Kill Team does do is it does provide you the space to be able to kind of try out new techniques that you think.
And the other thing,
that might take ages over 100 models, but do you know what? I can go to town on 6 of them.
Exactly. And also in the same vein, like if you have an idea and you try it out on a kill team and it doesn't work out the way you wanted it, oh no, it's a kill team. Like, you've not invested hundreds and hundreds on an army when that idea hasn't worked out. It does happen. But yeah, it's to be honest, my highlight was you not being able to count Space Marines. That was my genuine highlight.
Oh, that's another story for another day.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Right, moving swiftly on. What's your favourite thing about the event apart from my continual muck-ups with my Space Marines?
What's my favourite? Right. I would have to say just the atmosphere about the event. I'm kind of a bit selfish in the way running these events because I do think Kill Team is a bit of a hidden gem in GW's catalogue, and it's one of those things where just people like yourself like coming up to me and saying during the day like how much they've enjoyed Kill Team, like not the event, put that to one side, but they didn't say that. I was just saying that would have been devastating, but just saying that
the event was terrible, but the game system was mega.
Yeah, how awful your event was. We managed to get through it because of the game. But yeah, that is it. Like people laughing, learning how cool Kill Team is, and just maybe discovering that the line of sight rule takes a little longer than you'd hope to nail down. But apart from that, it's that's my favourite thing. Just people laughing and rolling dice. It's hard. It's really as a wargaming nerd, it's really hard to top that, I think.
Was there anything that happened at the event that you would have done differently, or if you were going to run the event again, that you would change?
So I think next. Well, I've got a few things lined up. So one element is I'm slowly writing down ideas for a full narrative weekend of Kill Team. So based around Vigilus, because that's just my favourite thing that's come out of 40k in a long time. And I've wanted a full like team weekend of Kill Team. That was slightly confusing. But so you have not necessarily like Imperials, Chaos, but more defined groups, and make it very, very narrative based, and then almost like RPG element of being able to upgrade stuff and stuff like this.
Anything with upgrades. Just this is the second episode in a row that I've talked about Mordheim, but like anything that has like a chart that you can roll on afterwards.
Yeah, well, in my head, even a bit more out of it than that, it would literally be almost like in RPGs where you get the ladder system of upgrading stuff, like choosing one thing leads you down a certain ladder to get you different upgrades.
Oh yeah, like a skill tree.
Like a skill tree, but for your team, as in a group of players, not your specific kill team.
That's very cool.
So, you could be more running down like a comms line or equipment or, all stuff like this. So different. So when you roll different things for the event, you different things will help you improve it. Probably the worst explanation I could have given, but I know what I'm saying. I also wanted to add a mandatory Saturday night dinner, which is going to kind of be like a murder mystery thing, but set in 40k.
That is very cool. I love it.
That is needless complications. But there you go. That's
what
me.
could
That's
possibly
basically going to be
wrong?
my autobiography. Gary Hennessy, a needless complication.
What was your favourite kill team overall then? Not necessarily which one was best painted, although I'd be curious to know which one did. What was your favourite personally?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like there wasn't. I don't think there was one person there that didn't put their full effort, if not more, into their kill team, which was beautiful to see. So this was so tough. It was so tough. But I really hated this question, Dan. I hope you wasn't going to ask it, to be honest, because there's so many lovely things. I think I can't pick one. I'm going to pick two. It was Chris Tomlin's Imperial Fist and Matt's Genestealer Cult with Matt Elliott's Commandos just coming up behind that. But it was because Imperial Fists, I love Imperial Fists. It's just my favourite. They're my favourite Space Marines. And Chris did them exceptionally well. And I loved Matt's colour scheme take on his Genestealer Cult. They worked really well. And the overall package he produced for them just worked so fittingly.
Yeah, I thought they were fantastic. Chris is a phenomenal painter, and I've always loved his work. But his Imperial Fist were actually my favourite too. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's so hard to choose. There are so many. Like, I think the models themselves, they're so characterful that it just lends themselves to being a fantastic.
Yeah, you can see Genestealer Cults like being just designed as a kill team. It's just what they are, and Matt did made extra models that wouldn't be for a Genestealer Cult army to make it look like just for a kill team, which is really nice. Like that little extra mile goes a long way.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think the difference between the armies is often, I suppose, in the style as well. Like that, a lot of the kill teams were in very different styles. So again, sometimes it's when you're looking at things that like Golden Demon, that often the things that win Golden Demons are in quite a similar style. So you can kind of be like, I can compare that to that quite easily. But when you have like hobbyists with very different styles, it's quite often to be like, I like that because of this, but I also like that because of this.
And that's great. Like that's great to have so many different elements come together on one day. Is fantastic. Like you had a gentleman there called Rob with his Galapox had done like lots of like the what's it called, like the Yoo-hoo glue to make everything look really sticky, and that worked really well. Like perfect team for it. They looked great, and I can just go through the entrance list and say why I loved elements of each one of their team.
Love it
because it's just true. It's easy to say because it's just true.
What about your own work? What was your favorite kill zone?
I think definitely the cargo port.
Okay, based off the kind of narrative of it all.
A kind of a mix, because this is why I was going down the Rogue One route, because it's just like you have 40k with all these like super invocative battlefields of like giant fauna and flora and all these absolutely insane things, and then what we're playing on is basically like a cargo depot. which is that's the thing. That's like the same thing. That was my Rogue One reference, where that's just a super fun. There's the newer Star Wars RPG. The first book they released was called Edge of Empires, and I loved it because it's like so far away from Jedis and Sith. It's just literally about like smugglers and scum trying to get by, basically. And I just really like that. I used a board from the first edition kill team, which was just like a cargo port board, and used the new Necromunda Warzone stuff And I just really enjoyed it. It had like, had a hangar bay, it had a crane, it's just lots of things I really enjoyed about that board. I don't think gaming wise it was the best board, which I will very much take on board for the next event to change that up a little bit, because it's one thing to look the part, but you do also want it to be able to be playable. You don't want people to not be enjoying playing on a board, because that's it's just not right.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I suppose finally about the event, before we move on to some questions about your own hobby and projects, what advice would you give to anyone looking at kind of maybe doing something similar, like starting their own Kill Team event, or maybe jumping into Kill Team themselves?
If it's jumping into Kill Team, I would say just find someone who wants to do it, whether it's another family member or a mate. There's a really decent starter box. If you can find the Octaris box, like pick it up, because I still think it's one of the most immense boxes GW have released, because it just has everything you need to play in it. It's great. But they do also have the starter set, which has a Krieg team and an Orc team, and you get lots of things in there to play as well. That's also where you get like the little A5 rule book, which as a gamer I absolutely love. But you don't get as much of the bigger terrain in that. But if you're a 40k player looking to play Kill Team, that's a great way to go down. If it comes to running an event, I just play as much Kill Team as you can. It sounds silly, but there's so many like little situations that can come up within a game that the more you play, the more likely you are to have experienced that situation and therefore be able to resolve it quickly.
Yeah, I think the game itself can actually come across as quite intimidatingly complex, because it's got this ridiculous symbols.
That's a thing into its own. You can, if you can get past the symbols and just go for like the colours that those symbols are, then that kind of gets past my slight annoyance at the symbols chosen for the game. But
yeah, I suppose once you get past that, once you kind of be like, okay, cool, I'm going to compartmentalize that. It's a bit weird. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't kind of align with anything that I've learned about geometry as a child, or anything that in my experience as a wargamer so far.
Yeah.
But let's just park the fact that that's the case and just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
It is actually very intuitive.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a kind of cognitive dissonance where you're like, I do not understand about this, but it's very understandable.
Totally. And I can, I'm the first to explain to people as well the things that, I'm not as glowing about the game with. And they're so minute, but there's a lot of like completely changed terminology if you've played other GW games to this one, which is like they're not turns, they're turning points. And they're like
and you retain dice rather than making saves.
Yeah, it's just basically got maybe it's you're just assuming coming into the game that playing other GW games it will have a shared language, but it's very much got its own defined language. So you kind of have to you always have to think of it as you're playing a different company's game.
Yeah,
I think that's work right. Through that.
If you didn't come with if you came into this game and read all the rules without any knowledge of Warhammer systems before, it would actually be a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, because I actually think it is written very well.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like you say, you come up against words like retain, and you're like, oh, okay, what would I expect from playing Games Workshop games? Do I think retained means, it probably means after saves, etc., etc. But it's not. And it is very defined in the rules what retained is. And it's like, that's good. That's a great way to be doing it. So, it is just getting past that. It's not really got a shared language with other GW games.
So I suppose the advice from me certainly is to kind of fight through that initial discomfort of like, this is weird, it's a bit different, I'm not sure I like it. Because once you kind of push through that, the system actually makes a hell of a lot of sense and is actually quite intuitive.
Yeah, the other thing, like as well, because we like, I always like to joke about line of sight, because there are lots of like in the rule book itself, you have all these pages, and then like the line of sight rules are on this really dark like double spread, and it's like, oh, you really build it up to these rules. But I remember reading, I was either reading a design diary post from GW on it, or one of like the interviews on it, where like the line of sight rules were made like irrespective of what the model looks like that you're trying to draw a line of sight to, because they wanted, although GW wants to make these super cool like dynamic models, because that's what, you don't want to paint 10 soldiers who are lying down hiding, even though that's probably what a kill team would be doing. So the line of sight rule kind of tries to get round that element, so you can have super dynamic models as well as having them represent being sneaky.
Yeah,
and I think
so
it does work that way.
Have a Deathcore Krieg trooper like running with his legs, running out behind him, and his bayonet poking forward, and like a big aerial Vox on the back of him, and not have to worry that he doesn't fit behind a wall because he's got all these things sticking out. You just say he is hidden, so you can't see him.
Yeah. The other thing as well, I think if you're getting into the game, the one of the biggest benefits I've had playing against people in Kill Team is just explaining to your opponent what your intention is.
Oh yeah,
and that really helps. So just, if I was playing you, Dan, I could just go, right, I'm going to put this guy on conceal and hide him here. My intention is not to be seen by those models. Do you agree that would be the case?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that works.
Something that we used to do a lot in Infinity.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it is one of those things where, I mean, that's good for any game, I think. So there's no like surprise, because surprises in games are a bit rubbish when it's you that's on the bad end of it. So it's I think just trying to say like, this model's going here. I'm not putting it on conceal because it should still be able to be hidden because it's behind obscuring bit of terrain, and then it's the easiest way to go about it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And what about any advice to people looking at running similar events or trying to get people involved in Kill Team as a community?
I would say do stuff like running demo nights. I think are always good. Like if you've got a local games, we're really lucky here because we've got a few really great game stores nearby. The one I run events at mainly is in Toyment in Poole, because it's just a great gaming space upstairs, and all the staff are super lovely. And Pete, the owner, is just a genuinely fantastic guy. So it's really nice to be able to support a store in your own way. And so I would say run some demo nights, and then check out what you can. There's a lot of good content producers for Kill Team on YouTube. My gut is that currently you have a lot of like more competitive edged content creators producing content for it, which again, it's a game. I think that's what's great about the game. If you want it to be super match play, you can totally make it that, and that's great. And if you want to do more narrative stuff, you can do that as well, which is really cool. But there are lots of different things you can find on YouTube based around it, which is great. But yeah, just as it has been for me, slow and steady wins the race with it.
And what about yourself? Are you working on any particularly interesting Kill Team projects at the moment?
I'm not sure how interesting they are, but I'm doing some Tau Pathfinders. It's quite even though they're kind of a newer kit overall. They're just one of those model kits that are like legs, body, arms, head, and that's it. It's like, oh, for someone who hates building models, that's really sweet. Like that's really just good. It's not like 4 bits to make an arm or something.
Did they bring out a new sprue for that Pathfinder?
Yeah. So you've got they have the Pathfinder plastic and the basically Kill Team sprue for them, which really does just like I like that model set anyway, but it does add some absolutely awesome models to it. Like you got the veteran Pathfinder, and he's got like a Tau bionic arm, which is not really something you've seen personally. I've seen on the Tau models, and it's like that's cool to see. And you've got like a different sniper rifle for them, and because like the normal Tau sniper rifles are like those kind of video game ones they plug into from my memory, if my memory serves. But you've got like a sniper rifle version, a demo guy like lobbing a grenade, which is really cool. And so yeah, and it does really work. You have a lot of kill teams that are the standard 40k models plus a kill team's like specific sprue for them. That's what, like the Chaos Legionnaires is another one. They work really well with that. That's super sweet, and yeah, it's really cool.
I love that guy that's throwing the grenade, the Pathfinder guy. Like where the grenade is like literally just left his fingertips.
Yeah. It's what I love as well. That I didn't realize how big the recon drone is for the Pathfinders.
Oh yeah, the chunky one.
Yeah, so you can have
It's
one
huge.
of those in the team.
That's cool.
So I just love the idea of this Tau Pathfinder team being like super sneaky, and then this thing just going bob, 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 like behind them with a burst cannon. Like it's like the least sneaky thing ever. I absolutely love it.
Oh, so good.
But I'm doing that. But I am working on, because I've not really pushed myself painting wise for a while. So I'm gonna do a Black Templar Intercessor team, because that's 6 models that I can just really spend time on. I love the Black Templar range. Again, this is what we were talking about earlier, where I keep on writing an army list and then just going, I really don't want to do an army.
Yeah,
but a kill team is something I can definitely do, because I keep on banging on about how much I want that Crusade squad just to have White Dwarf kill team rules, because it almost seems built for it.
Oh, it does, absolutely. But I was thinking that I've got because I bought the Black Templars like army box.
Yeah.
So and I used back in the day, back in several editions ago, had a Black Templars army. So it was really exciting to see that range getting refreshed. And much like yourself, I've got maybe like half an army's worth, and I just haven't had the kind of motivation to finish it.
No.
Whereas actually, if it was just one squad, you build 10 guys and only use 6 of them in the game, like perfect.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
There's also so much like variety in the actual models themselves. You have shooty guys, combat guys. You have the guys with the kind of incinerator flamer things. You also have the kind of initiates and acolyte. The difference.
But even just for the same elements for the actual just standard intercessors and assault intercessors, you can tell the designers have gone through and looked at what you can build from that kit and gone, that can be a specific thing. Like the assault intercessor with the bandolier, it's like that's the grenadier in the kill team, and where not necessarily has its own rules in 40k, you can do that in kill team, and that's super cool. Like for the Black Templar intercessor team, I'm just going to have the I can't remember what the vet is that leads them.
The Sword Brethren
that leads them. I'm just going to make him the assault intercessor sergeant.
Awesome. Yeah,
that's done. And then the other stuff just fits in fine. You can't have the pyro gun thing, whatever it is, but okay, never mind. I'll just swap him out for the grenade, or if I really wanted, I'll just paint him up and say he's my grenade launcher dude.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, you talked there about using the Sword Brother or Sword Brethren guy. It allows you to be a little bit cheeky with your model sometimes, because you don't have to use them as they are, because everything is very simple in kill team. So, for example, to make my Space Marine Intercessor Sergeant look different, I actually used the body of like one of the Space Marine captains from Indomitus, but just armed him like a sergeant. Yeah. And actually, you've got this model with a lot more bling on him. He's got like a kind of tabard and stuff. But you just think, no, that could be a sergeant. He's just dressed like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
just a bit flamboyant. It's his style. Yeah. He's flexing it.
And like when you read in the Black Library novels about Marines, that's what they're like. Like we've watched the video. They've made the video of a Marine getting armored up and stuff like that. All the little entourage every Marine has that goes with him into battle, but it's just not represented on the board because you couldn't. Yeah. And I think it was Wade Price that did some amazing like Space Marine attendants that counted as like wounds counters
or something. Yeah,
and it's like what
cool.
an absolutely amazing idea, and it's that kind of thing where you can just go as basic to the book or as in-depth as you like, and it's on such a small scale that it's achievable. And I think that's it. For me, big armies aren't achievable where I am right now, where an in-depth kill team, I can go, I'm going to paint one Black Templar Intercessor a month, but really put my best effort in. And then in half a year, I'm going to have what's hopefully is some of my best painted stuff.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
I just have to make sure I write it down. That's all.
Make sure you write down your paint recipes. Essential advice there from Gary.
Yeah.
And what about you? What about your terrain? You said you're quite a fan of making terrain boards. Is there anything that you're looking forward to making on the horizon?
I'm going to be a bit of a bad boy here and go yes, but I'm not going to say because I don't want to ruin it for the next event.
Oh,
but yeah, there are a few things floating in the old noggin that that need to be put in play. But yeah, it's they're silly but fun.
Okay, cool. Look forward to it. And I think I have committed to making you an orc Junktown, haven't I?
You did, yes, you did, which was just nice. Like that's just nice, you know?
Because that terrain from Octarius is so cool.
It's amazing. It's so good. It's one of those pieces like terrain sets as well that you can, and no judgment at all. You can put as much or as little effort as you want into it, and it just still looks great.
Oh yeah,
like you can just spray it and dry brush it, and it will still look great on the board. You don't have like loads of I just don't. I love painting terrain, but I very much do not like having to spend as much time on terrain as I would a model.
Yeah,
because that's not what I want to do. I want to get some cool terrain on the board without like spending as much time as I would painting an army on the board. And I get why people do. Like, I get why people do, but that's again not in my headspace right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Looking forward to building that, and I've got a few little ideas to make it a pretty cool.
Nice, I
cool
love it.
Thing.
Another reason why I love Kill Team. So
yeah.
The core missions, your more match play missions. Those are the ones we played. So we did play the match play missions. Are kind of are like very match play based. That's another jumping back, getting into Kill Team. The first time I introduced people to the game, you have an element called TAC Ops, which are like your almost like secondaries if you played 40k. You can completely take those out of the first few games and just play the core missions, which are the core missions are real boiled down but work great because they're quite basic to follow and achieve. They're very straightforward, I think is a better term. So, but then you can just start adding TAC Ops in when you and your opponent feel confident about it. And TAC Ops are amazing; they're great. And but you feel free to take them out in the beginning and then just slowly start adding them in, and that's another cool thing you can do. But what I was getting at is you do each of like the Warzone books you can get. Like what do you have? Let's see if I remember all these. So you have Octarus, Chalanath, Necromunda. Is Necromunda? Yeah, there is Necromunda, Morok, and then you have like Into the Darkness and stuff like that. They have their own 6 narrative mission in each, and in the Octarus one of them is literally based around in the Orc Junktown set, the kind of fuel pump piece of terrain. Yeah. There's a tiny spout on it, just like a tap. It's based around getting close to that and filling up fuel drums.
I love it.
It's like, that's amazing. Someone's just gone through the kit and gone, I'm going to base a mission around that. And it works perfectly in the narrative setting. So yeah, I just really enjoyed that. I thought you would as well.
I love any oil-based tap missions. I'm here for that. Yeah. What about the future of the game? What are you hopeful for on the horizon?
I just want it to go down the same path, to be honest, Dan. I really
with commanders and elites,
no. I mean the same path it's currently on. Yeah, same path it's currently on.
You wanted to grow, but not grow that much.
Yeah, so I really like what they've done with how they've changed it up with Into the Darkness, because it's the core rules are still exactly the same. There's no change to it. It's just a few additional elements, which like one of the things I think is really cool in it, like torrent and blast weapons in Into the Darkness get perks that they don't get in the normal game because they make such a huge effects on those kill zones. So when you're in tight corridors, a flamethrower is going to be massively more advantageous than it would be on in a standard kill zone.
Yeah, totally.
So, and I think those rules like that are absolutely fantastic. Even rules down to just like opening and closing doors, which anyone who's played GoldenEye will know just how much fun that is. And yeah, like that kind of way they've done it. So when they released the Into the Darkness box, they totally could have gone, now we're adding elites, because that's the way. And it's like, no, they've just gone, this is the same game, but here's a completely different setting for it. We're on a spaceship. And it's like, that's yes, please, more of that style. Thank you.
Love it.
I will.
Love it.
So, I'm not looking for Killzone Angron.
No.
So,
What about kill teams that haven't been released yet? Is there anything that you'd like to see?
Oh, I would harken back from earlier. I would love a Tanith kill team. Like, I think that you had the
box set,
Gaunt's
right?
Ghost one ages ago, but like just not a Gaunt's Ghost one. Just as in like the named characters. Obviously, they would all kind of be.
Yeah.
But just like a bog standard kill team. If anyone's read Valponi Glory, a Valponi team would be absolutely. I absolutely love what they've done with that army. So that would be cool. Just that's the point. You can just literally do anything. It's the fact that they re-released the Rogue Trader and Gellerpox stuff into it. I was so happy when I saw that, because those were amazing models and work so perfectly for Kill Team. I really want to do a narrative day just with those two teams.
It was quite interesting actually, because they were first released as part of the first version of the modern Kill Team.
Yes.
In like a kind of Into the Dark-esque scenario.
They
were on a boarding ship.
They were on it. They were on the True Hawk, I believe it was called, if my memory serves me.
Oh.
But,
I think that's right.
I think you're fine, Daniel.
I think you'll find it was called the True Hawk.
True Hawk, docking number. But the fact that we didn't lose those models, they just came back into what I believe is a better version of the game. So it's tough, isn't it? It's like seeing more chaos stuff, like the variety you can do with chaos. The new Necron kill team, I think, is absolutely inspired. That's such a cool element that it's basically an Indiana Jones relic hunting team. Which
that's amazing.
Absolutely, I was going to swear then. I think I've done very well not to swear so far. But
well done, Gary.
I absolutely love the idea of these cryptex just going round and going, right, mate, you took that from us. I'm having it back. It's just like a fun spinny pyramid for you, but that keeps like 1,000 of our soldiers alive. I'm taking that back. But that's that stuff like that. I think just elements that you wouldn't fit into 40k, but are super cool to add for Kill Team. More of those, please. That's great.
And finally, talking of 40k, I know you're massively into Kill Team at the moment, but obviously you've got developments in 40k quite significant happening at the moment. You've got a Demon Primarch coming back. You've got the Arcs of Omen narrative kind of event on the horizon.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about for the 40k universe more broadly at the moment?
Well, you've just named it then. Actually, I really are looking forward to Arcs of Omen. Like that's they sound really cool. Like the I think it's boarding actions is the kind of thing that it's the game that it's going to be based around, which I might be completely wrong with this, but if I remember, it's 500-point games on basically 2 of the Into the Darkness boards. So
that is
that
peak
sounds
for me,
great to me.
Absolutely peak 40k.
Yeah, because I think also it will just be, I've got 1,000 points of Death Guard. I really enjoy doing that 1,000 points. I've got the rest of the army to do. I don't really know when I'll feel pumped enough to do that. But now it's like, oh no, I can just use this in this version of the game. And I'm totally up for that. I think that'll be super. And again, my Imperial Fists army, it's not a 2,000 point army. I build armies in such terrible ways where it's just, I don't really think about lists. I just build stuff and then go,
like, I like this model. I will have 5 of them. You can only have 4 in your army. I don't care. I've got 5.
It's more that I agree to games and then just go, oh, Matt, I agree to a 2k game and I've got like 600 points. I just assumed this thing would cost a lot more than it does. So, but the idea of more an elite troops based game, I think sounds really cool. So that is very much what I'm excited about for 40k right now. Not
Awesome.
not that I'm not excited to see stuff like the new Angron model, and obviously that's all, or like the whole. I got really excited about seeing all the new Cadian stuff, and I was like, oh, am I gonna do? Is this gonna break my stance on it? And I'm gonna do a Cadian army. I was like, oh no, wait, I'll just buy a Cadian troop set and do a veteran guard team of Cadians.
Absolutely. There we go. You can scratch that Cadian itch.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll probably get the two kits I really want are the command squad and the standard troopers. Boom, there we go. That's probably just going to be, that'll be enough to do a kill team.
Perfect. Tick VG. That's for me, like that is what kill team is most attractive about. Like that whole vibe of I can just pick a box that I like and that's my project done. I don't need to worry about it being a certain size or having to build 4 of a certain squad. I can just be like, I like that box of toys. I'm going to build it. I like that. That'll do for me.
Yeah, exactly. It is one of those funny things, isn't it? With like 40k, it's like, I really want to paint this one soldier. It's like, no, you're going to paint 20. Like, I don't really want to paint 20
per squad. And the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I really like the Lehman Russ tank. Good. Do you like 12? No, not really. That's a shame. That's what you're doing. And it's So I realise that sounds like I'm saying put a Lehman Russ in kill team. But as we discussed before, in the Spec Ops, which is the narrative campaign system, which we've not even talked about, which is ridiculous. The narrative campaign system, one of the things you can choose is a base of operations from your kill team, and that has absolutely zero consequence on the games. But you can be so. What I was going to do for my Krieg kill team is one of the options for base of operations is a command chimera. So what I was going to do for each game is basically, if I lost the game, make the chimera a bit more beat up. If I won the game, give it like a kill marking on its hull or something like that.
Love that, and that's something I was really excited for, because I've got these Catachans, and they are 3D printed STLs rather than GW models, because the old GW Catachans are terrible.
Yeah, they're a mixed bag, aren't they?
They haven't aged well. But for example, like they brought out, there's been a handful of new Catachan models.
Yeah.
And I recommend using third-party alternatives for your troopers until they release some other models. But I have this great idea where there's you've got like a land speeder storm, with the scouts hanging off it, but you can just convert, instead of having scouts hanging off it, you've got these Catachan dudes hanging off it.
Yeah,
I'm just like, that'd be really cool. When I was talking to
to
Steve about like doing a whole army of it, and then like looking at like the Primaris land speeder and all the various Dark Angel land speeders, and be like, I could do a whole Astra Militarum tank like armored company with like land speeder storms as chimeras, and like land speeder vengeances as Lehman Russ and all that kind of good stuff. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. What I do want to do is just buy one land speeder storm and put some Catachan dudes on it, and it might not even work.
No,
but
I think
if it does work, it would be an ideal little kind of display model for a base of operations.
Exactly, and that's what's super cool. Like I want to do I forget what, it's not Inceptor. That's the flying dudes for Primaris. The floaty troop transport tank for Primaris.
Impulsor.
I'm 100% going to do an Impulsor for my team once they're completed, because that's what they deserve. But,
they're very
even
cool.
Even though obviously you get 6 models and it can only fit 5,
Maybe one can just like chill on the top.
Suspend my disbelief that 6 super gene enhanced humans can fit in that floaty tank. So, but yeah, there's just endless possibilities with the game, and that's what's exciting to find out about. Because the other thing that I love as well is the release schedule is not like over the top. It's quite nice. The latest one it was really close together, which has been like seems to be like the exception to the rule so far.
I think we're approaching Christmas, and there's always a bit of a, because there's like those 2 weeks where they don't release anything. Yeah. So
100%.
They kind of like squeeze quite a lot in towards the back end of the year, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And it did have the Kassakin in, which are the Imperial Guard are coming out now.
Great.
So
models.
It makes sense that was out a bit before then.
Yeah.
But absolutely exceptional models. Like they are super hench as well. It's amazing. It's
exactly what you'd want from your Kassakin.
Exactly. I'm deciding how to paint mine. Two roads. One's either inquisitorial stormtroopers.
Oh yeah, like black and red type thing.
Black and red, classic.
Yeah, very cool.
That's nice. But issue there is I kind of fill up my bloodied team. I've kind of done the blood pack from Gaunt's Ghosts.
Oh yeah.
And so they're kind of that scheme already. The other one is basing them off of the stormtroopers that are in why can't I remember it? The really cool Black Templars Armageddon novel.
Hell's Reach.
The stormtroopers that are in that, so basing it off of them. So a bit more Steel
cool.
Legion-esque.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Gary, thanks ever so much for joining us on this episode.
No problem. I'm sorry for absolutely bleating on about Kill Team.
No, I think
as you may guess, I enjoy it.
We should have you back on to talk more about Kill Team at a future episode. You talked about Spec Op campaigns.
Maybe that can be what we talk about next. That'd be lovely.
Awesome. Well, look forward to having you back on the show at a later date. And until next time, keep calm and crusade on.